Welcome to the Australian Women Speakers live stream show, which is where we showcase amazing Australian women speakers so you can get to see the huge amount of talent that's available, and so we can shift the dial from 30% women speakers to 50. Now, I'm incredibly excited to have my guest today, Leanne Faulkner from Fortitude at Work. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Leanne.
Oh, hi, Jules. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. So let's start off by telling everybody what is your topic that you like to talk about and why?
Sure. Well, I guess I'm pretty unique in that I stand or I speak at the intersection of workplace mental health and small business ownership. So
Ooh,
there's a lot out there I know around workplace mental health, particularly over the last couple of years, which is
yeah, it's
fantastic.
good.
Yeah, it's great. However, my specialty is really looking at the owner of the business because 64% of all businesses in Australia actually don't have employees. So even though we know a lot about employees, what about if you work on your own?
Oh
What do you
my
do
God, I
then?
love what you do. This is so true. I mean, part of the reason I set up She's the Boss is because I know that women running businesses are super lonely, and that isolation is only one aspect of
Right,
what it's like running a business. So,
right. And
so
in
what?
fact,
Yeah, go on.
I've just completed my PhD doing a
Oh,
deep dive looking specifically at the mental health challenges that face sole traders and micro business owners. And so, quite often, I'm invited to speak by large organizations, might be a telco or a bank, or maybe
yeah,
it's an association like a travel association who want to actually speak to the many, many small business clients or agents that they work with. So they're really looking to be able to support those clients or those, maybe they're franchisees of an
yeah,
association or an organization, and they're working in a small business. Sometimes it's a family business, or they
yeah.
might be working alone using the registration or the branding of that larger company. And so that corporate wants to be able to connect with them at maybe an association annual conference, or maybe it's an association event or a corporate event where you've invited small businesses to come along. And I bring to the table an expertise around how those small business owners might be able to look after themselves on that roller coaster that you and I know
Oh, yes.
is
So that
small
they
business
survive.
ownership. Right, exactly. So that's my expertise.
Okay. And so well, that you have thrown up so many questions I want to ask you, and we're going to come back because I really would love to know some of the research
Sure.
results from your PhD. But first, tell me, why do you care? Why do you talk about this?
Oh, I love that question. It's a great question. Because I have my own lived experience of the challenges that come with mental health. So I had a corporate background, like back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. That was me.
Right.
And then I moved into small business. I owned a business and started it, a skincare company called Billy Goat Soap.
Okay.
Still
I think I
around
heard of
today.
that.
Yeah, yeah. We actually had rapid growth, and I sold the business about 10 years ago.
Right.
However, that growth, that rapid growth, and that brand's still available today, really came at the cost of my mental health, and that caught me by surprise. I
Right.
wasn't expecting that, and so when I actually had my own struggles with owning and riding that roller coaster, late at night, because when you've got depression, you usually can't sleep, you've got
Yes.
insomnia. So I would type small business owner and anxiety, small business owner
Nothing.
and depression, nothing, right? There was a lot out there for employees, which is great,
Yeah.
and a lot out there for the general public. Again, fantastic. But that really put me on a quest. And so for the past 12 years, I've worked as a small business mental health advocate. I've
Right.
also been a lecturer around small business growth and development. I've done that for 8 years. Um,
Okay.
but that really led me on the path to say, hey, we need resources specifically for the owners of small business, in addition to employees. But let's focus on those owners, because we know that in small business, you would know this, Jules, in
Huh.
small business, if you're not in your business working, then your business is probably not performing to its max, because most of us in small business tend to work in the business and on the business, of course, but
But
in
you're
the
down
business
in the
as well.
weeds most of the time, trying to put out
Yeah,
fires and launch something or try and
right.
grow something or whatever.
Doing everything,
Yeah.
right? We don't have a HR department.
Or
We
an
most
IT department.
or an IT department. We most typically would pay ourselves last. We're probably the last person to turn the lights off in the office at the end of the day. So really being able to think about, well, what do I need to do? What strategy do I need to put in place as a small business owner?
Yeah.
It's fascinating, Jules, because I'll speak to small business owners who have a brilliant financial forecast. They'll have a great social media strategy.
Yeah.
And when you ask, well, what strategy do you have to look after yourself through the ups and downs
Like,
of
oh, I haven't
business?
even thought of that.
Yeah, I'd never thought of that. But in fact, I'm on a mission, I guess, to urge all small business owners to think about developing a very clever self-care strategy, just as you would a social media strategy.
Oh my God, I love this, Leanne. This is great
Oh,
stuff. So, can we, before I start asking you some more questions about exactly what you talk about and the audiences that you
mm.
like, can you tell me a little bit about the research that you did and what sort of issues business owners are getting? Because I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I understand we're on a time limit, so maybe I have to talk very quickly to get through it.
Well, you've
Look,
got a good 10 minutes that you can talk
okay,
about it
good.
if you'd like to.
Lucky. Look, in essence, it really is about understanding the relationships that you have with the people around you. So, in when you're an employee, there's actually a lot of research about what helps an employee to
Yeah.
thrive at work. So what I did was say, okay, we understand that for employees, but what does that look like if I own the business, because I'm driving that
Yeah.
business?
Yeah.
And the findings were really, I would say, humbling. I kind of had expectations that it would be, the usual. Oh, make sure you exercise, drink lots of water, and sleep, and all of those
Yeah.
things. Actually, that they're great, but they're not the answer. The answer comes in, and this is what I talk about in my keynotes. This
Yeah.
is quite hot off the press. The answer comes in understanding your power in the relationships that you have at work with those that are part of your business ecosystem. So,
Right.
for example, it's no good telling me to put lavender on my pillow if I've got somebody who hasn't paid an invoice,
Yes.
right? I could have all the lavender you like, but if I don't have my money in the bank, then
And that
it's
really,
probably
I think, is the biggest stress for small
right,
business owners. It's
right.
the lack of consistency in income.
Right. And for example, if I don't understand the levers that give me some sense of power and an equal relationship with the other people that are in my ecosystem or my universe, my work
Yeah.
universe, if I don't understand that, I may find myself just constantly on this treadmill of just trying to keep up. So, for example, if I don't have a good understanding of my sales or my sales forecast, I
Yeah.
may find myself living from moment to moment and saying yes to everything and feeling like it's either feast or famine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for example, maybe I don't really like working with Joe because Joe doesn't pay me on time, or Joe changes the expectations throughout that relationship.
Yeah.
But I can't say no to Joe because I
I need the
feel
work.
like, right, I need the work. So my keynote is really about, okay, what are the things that are unique to you? And in a room of maybe 500 people, and I've had that, in a
Yeah.
room of maybe 500 people, it's a different driver for all of us. Like only Superman gets into the telephone box and sticks on his undies, doesn't he? Like
Yes,
that's
exactly.
not true for Thor. Thor's superpower is a hammer, I think.
Yes.
Anyway, it's exploring what are the things for you in your business that make you feel powerful, not the Dr. Evil power, the Oprah power, that
Yes.
make
Love
you
it.
feel powerful, that then you can use that to have equal relationships, because we know the more powerful you feel at work, the more control you have. The more control, the more decisions you can make. And if I'm
Wow.
in charge of my decisions actively, I'm going to feel more engaged and thrive at work. So that's
Wow.
kind of the model that I unpack in my keynotes.
Wow. Well, I would encourage anyone who's watching this who's got a group of small business owners to get in touch with Leanne, because that sounds amazing. So, Leanne, you've talked about that you like talking with small business owners. Can you be a bit more specific about the types of audiences that you like to work with, in terms of, are there any particular industries, within small business that you resonate with? Have you got a particular gender, or don't you care? What sort of sizes do you like having as an audience?
Well, look, I have to say up front, my specialty is small business owners.
Right.
So that really is it. So any audience where there are people who own a small business, then really they're going to get, I think, the most value out of my keynote. Having said that, though, the idea around power and thriving at work really does apply to general managers as well in a management position. So I'll give you an example. I spoke at a keynote on Friday
Right.
where half of the audience were small business owners and the other half of the audience were women in management leadership type
Oh, yep. Yep.
positions. Because that idea around having a sense of personal power to drive conversations and to drive decisions at work really does apply whether you're a small business owner or in a leadership position. So I am comfortable speaking to both, but I most often get
Yeah.
booked by corporates or associations that have small business clients.
Okay, brilliant. And do you do a lot of the sort of business breakfast? Do you talk a lot with councils? Because I know the economic development people at most councils have running those best breakfasts for the business owners in their
Yes.
communities. Is that kind of where your target market is?
Yes, I've actually done a range. So look, I'm probably most often booked for large events.
Okay.
So I'm quite a dynamic, engaging speaker, and it's not just me up the top. So on the platform,
Yeah.
most often I do ask for a roaming mic, so either a headset or a
Oh,
helmet,
great. So you
and
love
I'm
to
out
go out
there
into the
amongst
audience.
it. And I would say that my style of keynote tends to be more blended in that there's usually a couple of things that I would ask the audience to do. It's always safe. It's always fun. We always have a laugh. It's
Yeah.
hard to talk about mental health and laughing, but it's possible to have both. And so I would tend to be walking around in very large groups, but I'm equally comfortable, speaking to small groups as well. That often you get a lot of intimate questions and discussion happening in smaller groups. So
Yes, and I agree, and I love both too. So, but you talked about telcos, you've talked about small business. Are there any particular industries that you find that this is a real issue for, like people in finance or people in
yeah, no,
retail?
and to be honest, you've mentioned a couple there, like finance. I've worked and presented at finance
Yeah.
conferences. I've worked and presented at association-based conferences like travel association, optometry associations, retail
Okay. Yeah.
associations. I think because mental health at work has become much more of an openly discussed topic, it is an area that I'm comfortable speaking across all industries, not specific to any particular industry.
Okay, great.
But as I said, it is typically a large organization like maybe a bank or a telco that might book me because they're running some sort of special event for their small business clients, and they want to be able to support their small business clients to thrive at work. It makes good sense, right?
It does, yeah. Yeah.
And so I would be the sort of speaker you might invite to a conference, an annual conference or an association conference, because I bring in that angle around, well, you own the business, so how do you care for yourself?
Okay. So how long have you been speaking for in this role, this type of role, Leanne?
Oh, some might say too long.
Never. But I mean, have you been doing this for 5 years or 15 years
Oh,
or
look,
longer?
about 8 years, I guess, seriously, 8 years.
Wow. Okay.
Um, yeah, probably about 8 years or so. Now that I've finished my PhD, my availability to speak is a lot more open
Increased.
now.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
good.
and I'm very grateful for that harrowing experience of deep research, because I do bring quite an innovative and unusual angle to the table when it
And I
comes
would
to the
say
patient well.
informed as well, because I think there's a lot
Yeah,
of people that talk about the idea of something, but you actually know,
yeah, I
which
can bring
is,
the research to back it up.
yeah, which is great. So how do you find gigs, Leanne? How have you built up um, either your profile or how have you reached out? Are you going through the bureaus? Have you been reaching out individually? How do you do that?
It really is a combination. So I've been represented by bureaus for some time, and they will send me, inquiries from
Yeah.
their
Okay.
clients. I've recently revamped my website, fortitudeatwork.com.au, so that people get more of an understanding of who I am as a speaker. So
Nice.
you'll definitely get a good feel for me from the revamped site. And I get a lot of referrals, so it's fascinating, Jules. Like, there'll be somebody sitting in the audience of an event
Yeah, so true. Who
who will
works for
then
somewhere else or whatever,
exactly,
has seen you and then put you forward.
that happens quite a bit.
Well, that's
So,
fantastic. It's a
yeah, and that's
testament
lovely.
to
That's
how good
really
you are.
lovely.
So, going back to your talks, what would be two key takeaways? I'm putting you on the spot now, but anyway, that people might take from your talks. What kind of do you like to leave them with?
Uh Look, I guess it's an understanding of self, an honest understanding of your drivers, of your power
Right.
drivers, will help you to thrive at work. So that's one thing. And
Yeah.
I think secondly, and there's so many. Two is unfair to us.
I know that as I say it, I'm thinking how unfair it is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
And I think the second is that you are not your business. So the
I love
business will
that.
go up and down, but it doesn't mean that you're a good or a bad person at any given time. You will always, in essence, be the good person that you are, regardless of the ebbs and flows of
Oh my
business.
God, I love you saying that because I think a lot of people forget that it's
Yes.
really about their purpose and their drive, and it's not actually about the bottom line. That,
Yeah.
as you say, can come and go, but you shouldn't be going up and down with it.
Yes.
So, can you talk about sorry, I keep putting you on the spot for this. Just to let anybody know who's watching this, I am very bad in that I nearly forgot about this morning. So Leanne is doing
Oh,
this all off the cuff, rather
that's all
beautifully.
right.
And I'm
That's
learning
okay.
how amazing you are. So, is there a memorable speaking experience that you would be up for sharing that you can think of?
Oh, no, that's like asking me about my favorite
I know,
child.
and your key takeaways, but still, have that. Well, just anything that springs to mind where there's maybe a funny anecdote or a funny story behind it.
Look, I'm reluctant to point out anyone in particular, because I can honestly say when I'm there, I am wholeheartedly there and I love all of them. But what makes the experience memorable is when the audience is with me. So when there's a couple of things that I will do in my main keynote that does actually ask the audience to trust me. We have fun along the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And those audiences that do wholeheartedly jump in when I'm with them, we all leave with this huge sense of satisfaction, like we've got something out of that, like a
yeah. Good.
takeaway. And that actually includes me as well. So you can just feel it in the room. So I think it's when the audience is with me, and I do work hard to engage my audience. I work very hard to do that in every single
Well
keynote.
done.
So when we're doing it together, that makes the session memorable and a whole lot of fun.
Oh,
So
I love that. No, I guess I was thinking, I always think of that when, and I've done a lot of talks, but I will never forget the time when I don't know how nerves affect you, but my nerves affect me by making my mouth like cotton wool.
yeah,
All the moisture disappears.
yeah.
And so I always want a glass of water, and I will never forget. I don't know whether this has happened to you, but I will never forget being given a glass of water, which I didn't really pay attention to. It was like, thank you. Had a glass, and it had ice cubes in it. And I therefore had a mouthful of ice cubes
Oh,
at the beginning of my talk. So I was like, I'm really sorry. And I had the microphone, over, and I was like, I'm really sorry. I just got to crunch these now together.
oh
But, there's often something that makes you kind of go, oh my God, I'm going to have to tell this story again because it's just so funny.
no. Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, so Leanne, if someone wants to book you, you talked about your website. I'll get you to give everybody the web address again, but also can you tell us anywhere else? Are you on the socials? Can we find you on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Where is the best way for people to be able to find you if
Look,
they're
a
looking
lot
for
of
you?
people do contact me through my website, so
Right.
fortitudeatwork.com.au. I've got a little newsletter thing. You can sign up for the newsletter and stay updated.
Oh, great.
For a long time, I wasn't doing anything really. It just wasn't a priority, but I've got a bit more time now. So I do send a monthly newsletter, just a
Well
little
done.
thing. So sign up for the newsletter, just keep updated. Or you'll find me on LinkedIn. I'm very present on LinkedIn, so you'll definitely find me there as well. And of course, all the socials for Fortitude at Work. I'm an Insta girl, so I'm definitely active on Insta and
Right.
Facebook. So
Fantastic. Well, that's where all the small business owners are. So it seems the logical
yes.
place to be. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for this interview. You sound amazing. I love the topic of your talk and your why, and that you know what you're talking about with the research, and your talks do sound really engaging. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jules, and thank you for, making all of this happen. It's just been a pleasure to talk to you. I
Oh,
really appreciate it.
thank you so much. Now, if anybody also, I don't know why I didn't think of saying this before, but if you want to find Leanne, you can find her on womenspeakers.com.au, which is our directory of women speakers where we're trying to make ourselves much easier to find so that you can give us many more opportunities. So please go to Women Speakers if you're looking for a speaker.
Mm,
And and the difference, I guess, is that you don't have to pay a commission and you don't have to go through a third party. You can go directly to Leanne and speak
mm.
to her. Um, you're also very welcome to post a request in either the Facebook or the LinkedIn group for Australian Women Speakers. And if you are a speaker and you're watching this, I would encourage you to get onto womenspeakers.com.au and build a profile. And thank you so much. Leanne is amazing, and I look